Interstate 5, yeah! Alright, today we are talking Interstate 5, one of the great roads in the country, Westside Express, the left coast. We are rebooting our first extra long episode, so should be awesome. The old episode is going away, but if you join my membership, then you can see it. Let's take a look at the route. Interstate 5 goes from the Mexican border to the Canadian border. It is the only border-to-border road currently, although they plan 69 to do the same. Alright, let's talk about northbound Interstate 5. We're starting down here in Tijuana. We see this San Diego I-5 shield on this road, Mexican Highway 1 in Tijuana. We've seen this in the Mexico Highway 1 video, which you can check out right over here. Here is the line to the border and as far north as you can get on Street View. And on the American side, this is as far south as you can go. We can see the red line San Diego trolley right there. I think it's actually called the blue line though. And the entrance to I-5 and 805 right up ahead across the street from the trolley. Here's our first stateside exit onto I-5 right from that train station. And here's the southern extent of Street View on I-5 itself. We see 805 right lanes and 5 north lanes. A little further up, we do get I-5 North San Diego and 805 North nothing. I don't know why they don't just do something, but 5 North San Diego is good because hey, we're playing the Chargers this week, so San Diego. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? And if you really like it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. We meet California Highway 15, which is better known as I-15. It becomes I-15 up at I-8. It is signed north for Riverside because that is where Interstate 15 goes. California 15 doesn't go far. From exit 15 or so, we are now signed 5 North Los Angeles as we near downtown San Diego, as we should be. Here's a look at downtown San Diego from I-5. And now we're getting 163 for Escondido, the downtown exit, 5 North Los Angeles still, and we got that plane overhead. We meet I-8, 8 signed East El Centro, and West for nothing instead of beaches, 5 North Los Angeles, 8, that was our last reboot, so you can check out that right over here. Right here we do see that train trolley system in the distance there. They've been doing quite a bit of work on that in San Diego, so that's pretty cool. La Jolla Village Drive, which is where I stayed when I went to San Diego for the first time. Heading north out of town, I-5 hugs the Pacific Ocean for a little while, and we go right past this military base. And we also have a checkpoint, something of an immigration checkpoint right here in the middle of I-5. Everywhere I look, something reminds me of her. We head into Orange County, California and San Clemente. But we see in San Clemente we are still signing 5 North for Los Angeles, even though we're in Orange County, so that's pretty good. Right here at exit 79, this is where we get our first 5 North Santa Ana thing. On the exit ramp at exit 78, it was also signed for Los Angeles. So right here, outside of San Clemente, is our first Santa Ana. What's up? It's a terrible thing to do. It's a terrible idea. Sign it for Los Angeles for 65 miles and then suddenly switch to Santa Ana, which is not too far ahead and is literally a suburb of Los Angeles. On our mileage sign, this is done perfectly fine. Santa Ana 2644 for Long Beach, that would be on the 405, and LA 55 miles away. Here's the exit for the 73. That cuts around and back over to the 405, so that is the toll route to Long Beach. I've only taken this route once before because, tolls. We come to the El Toro Y, and the 405 is going to be spawned right here. So 405 North Long Beach, and we will continue north 5 Santa Ana. This one especially, my God, how do you not sign Los Angeles at this one? This is a pretty terrible sign as well. We're meeting the 55. The 55 is signed for Anaheim and Riverside. Riverside is apt. But why would you possibly sign the 55 north for Anaheim? It only cuts through a tiny little part of Anaheim, whereas 5 itself goes through the main part of Anaheim, 5 and 57. So if you're signing anything for Anaheim, sign the 5 for Anaheim. This is the exit for downtown Santa Ana, and we are at exit 105. That will be where we get Los Angeles signed once again. 65 miles of signing LA, then we switch to Santa Ana for 26 miles, and then we go back to LA. Make it make sense. Here is a closer look at the first Los Angeles pull-through sign in Orange County after San Clemente, and we are meeting the 57 and the 22 here at the Orange Crush. 57 signed for Pomona, 22 for Long Beach. Long Beach, that whole area, Long Beach, Seal Beach. I spent a lot of time down in that area, so that's why I've got my Harbor Surfboard t-shirt today to keep it real for the West Side. Right before we hit Harbor Boulevard, we're here in Anaheim, and we can see the Matterhorn at Disneyland from the 5. We meet the 605. Sadly, it's signed south and north. I was hoping it would be signed through traffic. Through traffic. That would be awesome. 5 North Los Angeles still. Meeting the 710 signed north for Pasadena still. I mean, they're really being optimistic that one day that section of the 710 is going to be built. It ain't never happening. They probably should change the signage to something else besides Pasadena by now. We're getting the start of the Hollywood Freeway. The 101 is splitting off here, north for Los Angeles Civic Center. We're on 5 North Sacramento at this point, and we get 10 West Santa Monica. I like a couple of those choices. Here is our actual split for I-10 West Santa Monica, and we are 5 North Sacramento here in the East LA interchange. The 5 doesn't really get into downtown LA, but this is about as good of a look of it as we get from the 5 itself. We are getting 10 East San Bernardino, and San Bernardino is a major point. It's a large city. It's technically the center of its own metro area, but I still consider it all part of LA. I don't care that San Bernardino and Riverside is theoretically the Inland Empire has its own metro area. It just isn't. It's not its own metro area. It revolves around LA. A bunch of people live there who work in LA. 10 Phoenix would be awesome. 5 is still signed for Sacramento, and we are getting the 110, the Arroyo Seco Parkway, the oldest freeway in the United States, other than maybe the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and also former Route 66. So you can check out my Route 66 video on that. We're meeting the Ventura Freeway, signed for Ventura and Pasadena. This eventually becomes the 101 if you head west on the 134. LA's northernmost freeway, the 210, signed east for Pasadena. Right before the California 14 junction, we get this truck route. So this ramp isn't actually a ramp, it's just a truck route for trucks to get to 5 North and to 14, and autos would stay in the main line. This was requested by the Next 19. So thank you so much for that request. I really appreciate that. He requested it because he doesn't really see the use for this because it's not really a real ramp itself, and why not just build one big ramp? I'm generally okay with any time they split up big and small. I feel like it's probably safer for everybody. The Next 19 requested that with a $5 super thanks on a previous video, as anybody can for future and upcoming videos. You can also make requests with the Patreon. At certain levels of membership, Patreon requests are available, and I really appreciate those of you who have signed up for both of those. You also get to skip these promos and get early access to videos. I do have memberships now too, where you can get early access to videos, but you don't get requests or any other benefits like that. But just 99 cents. And we've returned to 5 northbound. We get 14 North, Lancaster, and Palmdale. 5 is still signed for Sacramento. We're in Santa Clarita right here, so here is Magic Mountain, the large amusement park up in that area. Right here, I-5 crosses under itself as we go toward the Tejon Pass. Here is the Tejon Pass itself, the highest point of I-5 in California. We come down the mountains, we get some wonderful views, especially if we look in the rear view. This is looking backwards. And now we get to the Grapevine, exit 215. So be prepared for hours and hours of skull-crushing boredom if you are driving this road from this point on. Just north of the Grapevine, we meet the split with the 99 for Bakersfield and Fresno. The old Golden State Freeway, actually I guess it still is the Golden State Freeway. We will be on the Westside Highway, the newer one, signed for San Francisco and Sacramento. And I gotta say, from here on out, we're always signed for San Francisco and Sacramento, which is the right choice. So downtown in LA, why did we get Sacramento? San Francisco is the bigger draw, and this is the route to San Francisco. If you're gonna pick one, gotta go with the bigger one, right? We are now getting Junction, Route 166, 3 miles ahead, Sacramento 295, San Francisco 296. No, they are not 1 mile apart. It is just signed that way because the two different routes that diverge to go to them end up being 1 mile longer for San Francisco. Skipped ahead quite a ways. Here is 152 signed west for San Jose, and we are still signed Sacramento and San Francisco. This would be a route where you could cut over to the 101 to go to San Francisco as well, but it's faster to stay on the 5 still. On 152, we see it signed for Gilroy and San Jose, and we see 5 signed Los Angeles South and Sacramento, San Francisco North. We split with 580 now. 580 is the route to San Francisco, so it gets Tracy and San Francisco. 5 is getting Stockton and Sacramento, so that's a good choice for 5. I don't know about Tracy for 580. I mean, Tracy's the next thing, But why not Oakland, San Francisco, since 580 doesn't actually go into San Francisco? And I know a lot of people have problems with the road ever being signed for a city that it doesn't actually enter, even though it's a whole system, so it doesn't matter. I think it should be signed Oakland here, just because Oakland is bigger. We meet the 132 very shortly after this, and it is signed east for Modesto, west for San Francisco. Why for San Francisco? Well, because it runs into 580. So let's take a look at westbound 132. It is signed 580 right here on this overhead before it gets to 580, because it dumps into northbound 580. 5 Los Angeles and 5 North Stockton, interestingly here, instead of Sacramento. Stockton is not a small place, over 300,000 people here, and here is Stockton's city limit. If it weren't so close to Sacramento, it would make for a fine control city on its own, but Sacramento, it's the capital, bigger market, more important place, so it's the better control city. Here's our exit for downtown Stockton, and 5 is signed north for Sacramento. Here's a look at downtown Stockton from I-5. Woo! Quite a sign here. Amazing that Portland shows up on a mileage sign before we get to Sacramento. 628 miles away, that might be the longest non-gimmick mileage sign in the entire country. There's Denver 560 or so in Lawrence. This is longer. I think this might be it. A little further north though, they get rid of Portland and they are giving us Sacramento and Redding. We enter Sacramento, so you see Sacramento over 500,000 people in the city alone, bigger metro than Stockton too, so it's the one to sign. We meet US 50, I believe this is also business 80, so 50 east for South Lake Tahoe, really also for downtown Sacramento. I don't know why they don't mention that. And 50 west for San Francisco because it's going to hit 80. We are now signed 5 North Redding. This is the Capitol Mall. This is an overpass over the 5, and we can see the California State Capitol right down there. And here's a look at downtown Sacramento from the 5. If you squint right here, you can see the Kings' new arena. They have moved from the arena that was kind of in the outskirts of Sacramento, and they are now downtown, so that's cool. We meet I-80. I-80 signed for San Francisco and Reno, so those are good control cities. 5 North Redding. Redding is a fairly big place, biggest place in far North California, so I think it's not too bad of a control city. But then again, it fails one control city test of mine, which is in Redding itself, it has no pull-throughs for I-5. If you can't have a pull-through for the next town in that town, then that town shouldn't be a control city. We're meeting California 99 once again for Yuba City. 99 has been silently concurrent with us since we met US 50 in downtown Sacramento. For whatever reason, they didn't put any 99 shields on here, so we didn't know that we were on 99 North up until we have the exit for it right here. 5 now signed for Woodland Redding. Would much rather see that say Redding Portland. In Woodland, we are now signed for 5 Williams Redding. So in Woodland, we get an overhead pull-through. Smaller city than Redding, but Redding we never do. We are merging with I-505, which is coming from I-80 from the Bay Area. After passing through some cities that we are right back to Central Valley boringness as we head up. Redding, the bottom line once again at 117 miles away. At random interchanges, we are getting Williams and Sacramento south and Redding north. Now we get Maxwell and Redding, so Redding remains the bottom line. We are in Red Bluff, California now, and this is the end of the Westside Freeway and the beginning of the Cascades Wonderland Freeway. Still not quite Cascadey yet when we're here. Red Bluff was requested by Edwin Paskey. He wanted me to show this because this is where his girlfriend lives. And thank you so much for that request. And yes, Cascade Wonderland Highway, not Wonderlandish yet, it is still boring. Just south of Redding, we can see the mountains for the first time. Cascade Mountains right up ahead there. 5 has no pull-through in Redding, so here is an interchange onto 5. So we see 5 South Sacramento and 5 North for Portland, and this is near downtown Redding. North of Redding, we are getting 5 North Portland and South Redding at random interchanges as well. We cross over Lake Shasta. I-5 starts to become really beautiful up in this area. Once we're north of Redding, it's pretty fantastic. This is an interesting thing. So we see the southbound lanes are going over this road and we are going under this road. That's always fun when that happens. Portland is our main control city now, and it's 400 miles away still, so still a long way to go to Portland. Here is Mount Shasta. We get better views if it's southbound, but northbound, it's still pretty nice looking. And here's another view of Mount Shasta from further up the road. Here is the start of US 97 here in Weed, California. North of Weed, we are getting Wairika 24, Portland 350. So we are nearing far northern California. For a while up here, we go right past the Klamath River. That is it, just that we are crossing right now, and it will be to our right for a little while. Now we get two random mid-sized Oregon cities, no Portland, just Ashland and Medford, the next two cities that we hit in Oregon. We're still on the California side here. Here's our last exit in California, exit 796. Wow! I didn't get to enjoy that the first time I ever did this road because it was back in 1997 and California was still doing numerical exits at the time. And now we cross into Oregon. On our first mileage sign in Oregon, we get Ashland, Medford, and Portland. So that is well done. That's our next exit, our next secondary. Medford's a fine secondary, and our primary at Portland. Here's the summit in southern Oregon, and this is the highest point on all of I-5, just a little bit higher than we were in Tejon Pass. At our first random interchange, we are getting North Ashland and South Wairika and Mount Ashland. Mount Ashland is for the surface street that goes over there. Wairika is for I-5. Pretty small towns that they put on the random interchanges in Oregon. We get an exit for Mount Ashland a little further up, and we also get a pull-through for 5 for Medford. We have this one random Medford pull-through. Everything else we're going to see is Portland. So Portland remains on the bottom line at 286 miles away, Medford 13. In Medford, at random interchanges, 5 is signed north for Grants Pass. However, when we look at mileage signs back on the 5 main line, it is still signed for Portland. So they're doing kind of the Illinois thing and signing smaller places on the random interchanges while maintaining the larger control cities on the mileage signs. Here we get another one for Grants Pass, Eugene, and Portland. That's a good one. We meet US 199, the Redwood Highway, the start of that here in South Grants Pass for Crescent City, California. The next exit up is for downtown Grants Pass, so we have Oregon 99 to Redwood Highway. You can get through downtown Grants Pass to get to 199 as well. And if you got off there, you can pass by this, one of my favorite signs anywhere in the country. I love this right lane for Redwood Empire, Oregon Caves, Golden Gate Bridge, because that whips you down to the 101. The first time I ever saw that sign, I crossed the Golden Gate Bridge that same day, so it was very apt. In Grants Pass, we are skipping with the smaller cities and going right for Portland on random interchanges. And now we get Hugo, Springfield, and Portland. Springfield is right at the same area as Eugene, so sometimes they swap to Springfield instead of Eugene. Quite nice driving through this section of I-5. It looks really good all the way through southern Oregon. Now we get Glendale, Roseburg, and Portland, so we are alternating our secondaries with Springfield, Eugene, and Roseburg. Here in Roseburg, we get our exit for Crater Lake, the pride of southern Oregon. I've never been. I hear it's nice. And this exit's significant for me, exit 174 Cottage Grove, because one day I drove from Hollywood to here all in one go. It was quite a slog. I was trying to make it all the way to Olympia, but I just ran out of energy when I came here. I'd been chugging Mountain Dews and Arizona green teas, and when I got to my hotel here, I opened my door and just fell out of the side of the car because I was so tired. But then the caffeine kicked in as soon as I checked in and still ended up watching SportsCenter for 3 or 4 hours. Getting to Eugene now, and Eugene, we get 5 North Portland, and we get the 105 that takes us into Eugene. Also 99 for University of Oregon and downtown Eugene here. And as I said, Springfield and Eugene are on the same line of latitude here, so we get 126 East Springfield, it's on the east side of the 5, and 126 West Eugene, and 105, it's on the west side of the 5. And now we're getting next exit, Salem, Portland. Perfectly done here. We meet US 20, the great US 20. We'll get to that one day. I don't know when, but we will definitely do a video on that. It's signed for Albany and Lebanon. We're in Salem now, and northbound I-5 ignores Salem quite a bit. It shows up as secondaries here and there, but it isn't used in the same way it is southbound. This is the closest thing we have to a downtown Salem exit, but they don't tell us that here. Maybe they do on a guide sign before this, but I'd like to see downtown Salem on that overhead. North of Salem, we pass the 45th parallel, halfway between the equator and North Pole, kind of. This was requested by the Derphog, so thanks so much for that request. That's a cool sign. Exit 282 is for Canby. They don't tell us what road we're getting on, just Canby. 1JHAR1, not sure how to pronounce that, requested this, and thank you so much for that request. I really appreciate that. He requested that because that is his hometown. We're getting into the Portland metro area, so 205 signed north for Oregon City and I-5 north for Portland. This is another requested exit from 1JHAR1 He requested this 217 because he calls it too awful teen because it's got terrible traffic at rush hour. Just heading over to Beaverton, maybe all those Nike people, I don't know. Thank you, I appreciate that. We're meeting US 26, which westbound is on the 405 north and eastbound is on its own. We are on 5 north to I-84 for Seattle, so we're getting Seattle for the first time because the 405 is heading to downtown Portland. This is pretty useful. Travel time to junction I-5 and I-205 on the Washington side via I-5, 28 minutes. 84 to 205 is 34 minutes. Here is our actual exit for 405 north and 26 west. And again, we get 5 north to I-84. We cross the Willamette River and we get a lovely view of downtown Portland as we do so. On the other side of the river, we are meeting I-84 and US 30 for the Dolls. This exit is way before I-84 actually starts. So a few miles down the road, here is where I-84 actually leaves. Maybe not a few, maybe 2 miles down the road. Here's where I-84 actually leaves I-5. We pass right by the Portland Trailblazers Arena, the new Rose Garden, or whatever they're calling it. And we were silently concurrent with US 30 there. You think for a road like US 30, they'd make sure they'd tell us. US 30 is going to be leaving us on I-405, signed for St. Helens. We also meet US 30 bypass just a bit north of this. We are crossing the I-5 drawbridge over the Columbia River. So yeah, I was wrong on the I-95 video. There is a drawbridge on a major road here on I-5. Pretty cool how they do this. We get this leaving Portland sign here. So now we know we've left. And just a short bit up, we get a Washington state line and Oregon. So we are crossing into Washington right now. We see exit 1B City Center. That is for Vancouver, Washington. Here's the actual draw part of the drawbridge. So right here is where they could close it to raise this bridge up for the Columbia River boat traffic. And we get this entering Vancouver sign. So here's what it looks like in Vancouver, Washington. I don't know about this, getting Kalama, that's the next exit, fine, but Longview as our secondary, I feel like Olympia or Tacoma would be better secondaries at this point. We pass right alongside the Columbia River, that's Oregon on the other side there, as we head up, and we got these train tracks right here as well. This is the Longview area. I know I stopped here one time on a college campus visit to eat at a Red Lobster with my dad in 1996. Might have been the last time I ate at Red Lobster, honestly. We meet US 12, and I recently did a video about US 12, and you can check that out right over here. US 12 is signed for Morton and Yakima, Yakima being the longer distance control city. Both of those are for eastbound. There is no westbound. We are merging with westbound. And we get a sign, North I-5, West US 12. Pretty nice. Get a mileage sign on the overpass, which I really appreciate Washington doing. Olympia is now our secondary, as it should be, Seattle 96. US 12 leaves us and heads to Aberdeen, and we continue straight. In Olympia, we meet the northern end of US 101. US 101 has its weird ending where it loops around the Olympic Peninsula and then ends here at I-5. Both sides ending at I-5. And it's north for Aberdeen. If you're going all the way around the peninsula, you get to Aberdeen, or Port Angeles if you're just going into the Olympic Peninsula. Tacoma, Seattle on the mileage sign. 512 east for Puyallup was requested by Stealthy Noctowl. So thank you so much for that request. And this is the way to his hometown. And he says, none of his friends in Denver can pronounce this town correctly of Puyallup. I hope I'm getting it right. I lived in Tacoma for a little while, so I hope I know. This was my old exit off of I-5 when I lived in Tacoma for Route 16 for Gig Harbor and Bremerton. The Tacoma Mall. Went to the Hot Topic there a few times in 96. Had to buy my Dead Kennedy shirts somewhere. This is actually before 16 leaves. They've really extended these ramps a lot in Tacoma. So now we're getting North 705, City Center, and South 7, which goes to Mount Rainier. And that just to the right of us, that is the traffic that is heading toward Washington Highway 16. It hasn't actually looped over us yet. Here's a look at downtown Tacoma from I-5. We also pass right by the Tacoma Dome. I think it's the largest wooden dome in the US or in the world or something like that. We meet Washington Highway 99, signed for 54th Avenue and Fife. I did an episode about that recently that you can check out right here. Washington Highway 18 is signed east for Auburn, but it really should be signed for Spokane. I've taken this cut a few times coming from Tacoma heading east because it is the shortcut to I-90 by taking this instead of going all the way into Seattle. This was requested by Andrew Weischer. I hope I'm saying that right. And he requested it because he drives a truck. He has exited here many times, I imagine, for the shortcut to I-90, just like I have. So thanks so much for that request, and good road to pick. We meet our third 405. We get one in each state on I-5, all three of I-5 states. This one is signed north for Bellevue, which is good. That's the biggest suburb on the Westlake side of Seattle. We're meeting I-90 shortly, I-90 East Spokane, and we can see the two stadiums in the distance on the southern end of downtown Seattle. We go right through the heart of downtown Seattle. Here is what it looks like now. We pass the REI building. It's got this giant climbing wall rock thing, which I always thought was pretty cool when I've driven past that on I-5. We can see the Space Needle in the distance as well, but that's a little ways away from 5. And right over there is the Aurora Bridge, the Aurora Avenue Bridge. That is Washington Highway 99, so we talked about that one before. We're meeting Aurora Avenue North, and this was requested by Brody19S because he likes this smiley face graffiti that is on this sign. He says it always makes him smile during his commute. So thank you so much for that request. We're meeting the northern ends of I-405 and of Washington 99. We're in the Everett area now, and we're meeting US 2. So this is right near downtown Everett. US 2 signed for Snohomish and Wenatchee. In Everett, we don't get any pull-throughs on I-5 that I could find, but we get North Vancouver, BC signed on interchanges and South Seattle. Here's exit 212 for Stanwood and Camano Island, and this was requested by Dead Slug because his friend moved here after California wildfires. Hope his friend is situated all right now, and thank you for that request. Quite beautiful up here in northern Washington. Not much in the way of signage though. I haven't seen much telling us Vancouver, Bellingham, anything like that. This is the main exit for Bellingham, and we don't get any mention of Bellingham. Again, there might have been a guide sign before that, like Bellingham next 3 exits or something like that, but I feel like they should put this on an overhead sign too. North of Bellingham, we finally get a mileage sign. I looked hard for any between Everett and Bellingham, and I couldn't find any. We've got Blaine right at the border, and Vancouver, BC, 44 miles ahead. Exit 275 is for border crossing, although we cross the border going straight as well. And once we're this far north, we do get 5 North border crossing as our control city, so that's cool. Customs and immigration 1/2 mile ahead. And this is quite old street view, so I don't know if this is what it looks like anymore, but I've been here before. This is the Peace Gate at the I-5 border in Blaine, Washington, as you head into Canada. And here are the actual toll gates that you go through, or at least as of 2007. I imagine they probably look different now. Again, old street view. And here's my own picture from that area, because, hey, why not? All right, let's talk about Interstate 5 northbound. Todd's the way it should be. For I-5 northbound, I'm gonna go pretty hardcore here. I'm going to say northbound it should be San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, because if you're going to sign Sacramento and San Francisco in the Central Valley, if you pick one in LA, why not pick San Francisco? It's where more traffic is going. Then Sacramento after the 580 split, Portland all the way from Sacramento because Redding doesn't have any pull-through signs, so don't sign Redding, sign Portland. Then Seattle, and finally Vancouver. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. I really appreciate it. This has been a very fun one. I've driven this entire road from end to end a couple of times, so this is a fun one for me to come back and revisit. Till next time, my name is Todd, and keep on trucking.